Is Canada a racist country? A native of Dominica says that it is. He's Roosevelt Douglas, otherwise known as Rosie Douglas. Mr. Douglas, why are you so involved with Canada and the problem of colored people here?
Well, first of all, I am a black man, and if there are black people here, I am going to be involved in fighting with black people. Further, having been born in the Caribbean, an area where the Canadian people are exploiting in the most vicious and blatant form, it is my responsibility while I'm here to expose this type of exploitation.
Does that include violence?
Well, I mean, if you are racist, by implication, you are imposing your values and you're imposing your power on people in a manner which is not in the best keeping with their basic human integrity. And this is a form of violence. In other words, when you have black people living in Preston, Nova Scotia, in houses that are not heated when temperature drops to 20 below zero during winter, this is a form of violence.
Then
this is what we're fighting against.
Black people...
You are the ones that brought us out of Africa. I didn't ask you to be brought out of Africa.
Are you saying that black people were brought to this country as slaves?
James McGill, the founder of McGill University himself, owned 12 slaves. Slaves were also brought from Sierra Leone, 5,000 of them, to build the citadel in Nova Scotia. So don't tell me that black people didn't come here as slaves. The black people were brought here as slaves.
I didn't say that.
Learn your history.
The majority of black people in Canada.
I'm going to feast at the welcome table. I'm going to feast at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. I'm going to feast at the welcome table. Going to feast at the welcome table one of these days. I'm going to tell God about my troubles. I'm going to tell God about my troubles one of these days. Hallelujah. I'm going to tell God about my troubles. Going to tell God all of my troubles one of these days.
Where I grew up in Toronto was a very diverse community. It was a happy place generally, and that wasn't just in my little mind. We used to dance together all the time, and we had danced together in each other's community centers.
to go. Stopping a beat deep down in my heart.
Kids of European descent would come to our Home Service Association. We would go to the Jewish YMHA and the Ukrainian Hall, and we'd just pile into these dances. This was an era of doo-wop and an era of R&B, and we all loved it. I had a very close friend who was white. I recall him saying to me one day when we were going to do something together, I said, okay, I'll come over to your house and, pick you up. And he said, well, you can't come. I said, why? He said, we have some American relatives coming and staying with us, and they don't like black people. Don't come. Please. He could never be my friend again after that. That was it. We went our separate ways.
Les Noirs ne sont pas nombreux chez nous. À Montréal, ils comptent pour 1% à peine de la population. Ils habitent depuis toujours en milieu ouvrier. Ailleurs, on ne rencontre à peu près pas de Noirs.
Tes parents, est-ce qu'ils te parlent des Noirs des fois?
Mon père a eu ça à mort.
Ils n'aiment pas les Noirs?
Non.
Qu'est-ce qu'ils en disent?
Ils n'aiment pas.
Ta mère?
Ma mère est pour les Noirs.
Et toi?
Hein?
Tes parents, qu'est-ce qu'ils en disent des Noirs?
Ils n'aiment pas.
Toi, tu aimes les Noirs?
Oui.
Ton père, il les aime?
Oui.
Ta mère aussi?
Oui.
Oui? Est-ce que tu aimes mieux jouer avec les Noirs que jouer avec les Blancs?
Les Blancs, il n'y a pas de différence.
Il n'y a pas de différence.
Homme de Montréal, je parle même langue que vous, mais la prononce à ma manière. Je viens d'une île de soleil à mi-chemin de l'enfer et de la nuit. J'ai les yeux à hauteur du ciel, car je me souviens de mes montagnes. Des fois pourtant, mon regard glisse au ras du sol, c'est que je me rappelle la mer, si bleue, si chaude, qui prend sa source au pied des plages. De ma fenêtre, j'entends un bruit de vagues qui vient, qui va, et puis se brise et se reforme, du même rythme que la mer. À Montréal, la mécanique fait la mer. Je viens d'une île de soleil où le froid est battu en brèche. Une île au nom indien, Haïti. Connaissez-vous?
Haïti, dans une petite ville au bord de la mer, une petite ville de rêve. Malheureusement, à l'âge de 5 ans, je fus expédié à Port-au-Prince pour étudier chez les Sœurs du Sacré-Cœur, voyons donc. Toute famille qui se respecte envoie ses enfants chez les religieuses.
In our fight against illiteracy, we are helped by international organizations and assisted by several hundred nuns and brothers from French Canada.
J'étais obligé à la messe tous les jours. Tous les jours, on te réveillait, aller à la messe. C'est pas à l'endroit idéal.
C'est un quartier curieux, et dans les vieux fonds de cour, il y a un enfant heureux, qu'en sortira un jour. Mais au bout de la rue, à cause du chômage, il y a un homme qui a bu, en cherchant de l'ouvrage. On s'en fait pas pour ça, et je dis chapeau bas, car malgré tout on rit à Saint-Henri.
J'aurais adoré être toute sale, rouler dans la boue, grimper aux arbres, mais non. J'aurais toujours eu quelqu'un qui m'en aurait empêché. Ma jeunesse, je me suis fait emmerder en Haïti. Mais quand tu vas aller monter au pouvoir, tu ne sais pas ce qui se passe. C'était des représailles avaient commencé, ils enlevaient des jeunes filles.
I was raised in a military family, and it was quite understood by everybody that there was one ultimate commander, Duvalier, and he will shoot you and torture you. There would be whole families wiped out. Some of the friends that went to school with me, they disappeared. When I was about 16, my father was working in the telephone company there. When Duvalier wanted to talk to his ambassador in Italy or something, he would take my father in the middle of the night. And one time, Duvalier told my dad, look, if there is anything that I said that comes out, you know what will happen to you, my friend. So each time the army truck would come at night, you don't know if they come here to arrest you or to just make a phone call. My family had to go into exile, so we went to America. But I was drafted into the army to go and fight in Vietnam. So if America was attacked, it would be our duty to defend America. And as much as I was tempted, I felt that, well, it would be a betrayal. Like they did the same thing to us, and we're gonna go and do the same to these people.
Where do you live?
We live in Massachusetts, Sharon, Mass.
Yes, the name, please.
When I came to the Canadian border, I told the officer that Canada was freedom and I didn't want to fight in the US Army. So he looked at me and he said, look, I went and fought in Korea, lost my left leg there. So you come and tell me that you're not doing your part in the war for freedom in the world? You go back to where you came from in the US. And there was this guy waiting on me, this big, huge guy. And suddenly he said, listen, young man, I know how you feel. My son was killed in this damn war in Vietnam. You stay here, and next boss that comes, tell them that you going to go skiing.
À 14 ans, je fus expédié comme un colis au Canada. Quand je suis venue à Montréal, j'étais chez les religieuses. J'étais, quoi, la seule dans la ville, la seule noire, la seule haïtienne. La différence, je la sentais à l'intérieur de moi. Non, n'oubliez pas mes racines. Je rêvais de ma source, de ma mer, de ma rivière. Les seules choses vraiment que j'adorais.
un de ces jours, vous allez devoir penser à vous marier. Est-ce que vous aimeriez vous marier avec un noir ou avec un blanc?
Ça dépend, mais si je tombe en amour avec un noir, je me marie avec un noir. Fait s'il viendra que j'aime un blanc, je vais le marier. Moi, ça me fait rien.
Alors,
Qu'est-ce que le monde pense?
posons la question autrement. Est-ce que vous préféreriez tomber en amour avec un blanc plutôt qu'avec un noir?
Avec un blanc.
Est-ce que vous aimeriez ça être de race blanche?
Oui, dans une manière, oui.
Si vous aviez encore le choix entre être comme vous êtes ou être toute blanche, qu'est-ce que vous choisiriez?
J'aimerais être toute blanche.
Oui.
Oui.
C'est un quartier curieux, et dans les vieux fonds de cour, il y a un enfant heureux qu'en sortira un jour. Mais au bout de la rue, à cause du chômage, il y a un homme qui a bu en cherchant de l'ouvrage. On s'en fait pas pour ça, et je dis chapeau bas, car malgré tout on rit à Saint-Henri.
I was born in Montreal. And we were the only black family that lived on the street. Both of my parents were from Trinidad and Tobago. They were very, very strict parents. You know, when an immigrant comes, they don't come to have a party. They come for a better life, and they mean it. My father had experienced so much discrimination in Canada that he made us very aware of the fact that we had to be better. They're going to hold this against you. You must be better. And of course, we were kids, so we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I went to a Catholic school. There was something called Ascension Day. When you got your grades, they rated you. They would say, whoever comes first next month will lead the parade. I came first, and yet they put me in the back. And I complained. I'm like, why am I back here? I'm supposed to lead the parade. I came first. Well, you're too tall. Of course, I went home crying to my mother. Then my mother went up immediately over to the school to complain. They didn't change it, though. My father was right, because I was better, but there was a lot of discrimination.
Do you think the Negro people get an even break?
Yes.
No discrimination?
No discrimination. A few years back, there was discrimination. Today, you take the places around. They're putting them right in the same, giving them the same privilege as what the white people have. Now it's up to themselves to turn around and do also. Show their appreciation by keeping the place clean and doing the same as the white people.
Have you ever tried to go to a white barber? If you're happy with your Negro barbers, you don't need to go to a white barber.
Well,
but
Negroes, not niggers.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say nigger. I was saying Negro. If I was misunderstood, if I didn't come out clearly, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The Negro Community Center was really the heart and soul of the Black community.
My love has no beginning, my love has no...
Some of my friends to this day I met at Negro Community Center.
Lost in a spin.
For someone like myself arriving from Toronto, I was in a community that had a base that had been there for 2 generations. You could drop in on anybody anytime, take a little food to their house, sit for a couple of hours, move on. This whole way of life felt like my world.
Norman would go to the States a lot, so he had a lot of that Black American information that we were always dying to hear.
I wish I were a poet, so I could express what I'd like to say. Yeah.
There was this wonderful, wonderful club where we all went every weekend, and people like the Chantals and, you know, the Temptations, Joe Tex, and all these people would come through.
We were always taken with America because when you saw pictures of Black Americans, they looked like ordinary people to us. They were policemen, they were mailmen, they were farmers. Well, there was no such thing in Canada, certainly not in Montreal.
When they look like Angela Davis, actually she looked better than Angela.
Yeah. It was something to watch what was going on in America. While we were having similar experiences, Black Canadians are not very rebellious to begin with. Black Americans were simply writing something that was wrong.
You know, in my case, having come from the Underground Railroad families, I was in a funny way born on the Freedom Road. My family had lived in Canada for at least 5 generations when I was born. And that meant finding solace in our communities.
All we want is an opportunity to be able to provide a favorable environment for our children, and that they might have the privilege of breathing the air of freedom, to know that they are free to go to buy a home wherever they see fit, to go into any public service, barbershop, restaurant, hotel.
Housing? No.
Housing is the big problem.
Here in Halifax, where one half of Canada's Negroes live, racial injustice is here, and nowhere is the picture more graphic than at the end of Halifax's main street in Africville, the home of 400 Negroes living next to the city dump. The Negro here has no garbage pickup, no running water, no sewage service, no paved roads.
What does the city plan for Africville?
Africville obviously must be redeveloped in some way. But should there be violations of minimum standards, then you have no alternative but to enforce the law, and this is universal for everybody.
Of course, among the reasons there are violations of minimum standards is that there are no sewers and there's no water. Surely the sanitation and the health problem is greater in Africville for those reasons alone, leaving everything else out for the time being.
Well, I think that the buffer's charges involved, the kind of properties that are there, I'm afraid that this would be uneconomic.
Why do you stay here?
When you're in this country and you own a piece of property, you're not a second-class citizen. That's why my people own this land. They work for it, they toil for it, and they work to get this little piece of land that they own, and they try to hang on it. But when your land is being taken away from you, you ain't offered nothing, then you become a peasant in any man's country.
City Hall may give Africville its harshest blow. The Negroes have been told that they must leave when the bulldozers come in.
We have sat and we've waited, we've begged, and we've gotten nowhere. A few tokens, a few confessions, but the Negro hasn't progressed very much since the days of slavery. You know, I mean, before they put iron shackles on our legs, now they put economic shackles on it. Whites are not the enemy because they're white. They're enemies because they're exploiters.
Do you enjoy talking about Africville?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because it hurts me.
Why is that, Mr. Chief? Why does it hurt you to talk about Africville?
Because it's one of the nicest little communities I ever lived in. And to tell you something, I've been around this world twice. I've never met a place like Africville. Never.
But Mr. Steed, everybody thought it was such a bad place.
Who?
All the people who tore it down.
The people that tore it down?
Mm.
That's the people that tore down the city of Halifax, the founders of the city of Halifax.
They said it was a bad place.
That's what they called it. But it was not to us, it was a heaven, a home, a real home.
growing up in St. Vincent, there were no limits to my horizon in terms of what I could achieve academically. I loved school. It allowed me to dream. Although my family was poor, I managed to become a teacher. Being a teacher meant that I had a lot of money, a lot of freedom, and a lot of fun. But somewhere along the line, I had aspirations to go to medical school.
Située à Montréal, l'université Sir George Williams, tous ou presque étudiants sont de Montréal et sa banlieue. À peine 2% viennent de l'étranger.
A lot of us immigrants wanted to go to medical school. I chose Sir George Williams because we had a sense of reverence for the institution. Students would say, don't take Perry Anderson's class if you don't have to, because he does not like West Indians. The thing is that you had no choice. Perry Anderson was the gatekeeper of that particular course to medical school. My friend Terence does a report. Anderson gives it a grade of 7 out of 10. His friend, who is white, borrowed the same damn report, copied it word for word, did not make any corrections, handed it in, and gets 9 out of 10. You were supposed to accept it. So for them, you know, the discrimination was their God-given right.
I speak to the people of Canada as a whole tonight. I intend to make an appeal to you and the conscience of this nation. We can't walk forward to that new Canada when Canadians, whatever their racial origin, have that equality they have today. Ladies and gentlemen, peoples of other racial origins have a Bill of Rights that protects them against discrimination. They're with us today. I promised you the constitutional rights, and you got them. Let that be clear.
We were told we were not in the United States of America. Promises had been hung out about transforming values. But that whole strain of racism from the white South was palpable.
We in Canada are no longer willing to sit down and accept a society which operates along the lines of racial prejudice and of bigotry. If this problem is not given immediate attention, and not only through legislation, but through the very hearts and conscience of white Canada, you will be faced with a problem much greater than has arisen in the United States.
The real struggle was not just racism, it was about redefining us as people. And Rosie became one of the leaders of the movement.
Rosie was a brilliant, brilliant strategist. He paid attention to the movements of Black people worldwide. So he was constantly pulling that kind of information into whatever it was we were dealing with.
The main idea was to build up world solidarity. The real connections took place at the Congress of Black Writers. That was unbelievable.
Tout mouvement vers l'Afrique et la civilisation africaine.
I'm suggesting to the Black brothers and sisters that we need to go further than that.
But we can never let fear immobilize us. Got to
Run
move on.
toward him, for he is a poet. You have nothing to fear from the poet but the truth.
I didn't consider it a writers' congress. What it was a festival of Black consciousness.
J'étais avec des Jamaïcains, des Trinidadiens, de Sainte-Lucie. Tu sais, c'est comme j'en avais besoin de ce bain-là.
Well, I was interested in the answer given by the Prime Minister today. 3 nights ago, he spoke of the danger to Canada in revolution, brought about by revolutionary movements in the United States coming over into Canada. And these people said that they wanted to overthrow the government of Canada by force.
We cannot allow this entire community and this country to be controlled by white people. This, in effect, is white power. This is what it means. And this is why Black people are reacting now and asking for Black power. You have put us in that position. We didn't put ourselves there.
Let's come here with an international perspective of blackness. Oh my God, that was a terrible scene for these people. And nothing was the same anymore because we came to believe that we could change the world.
Last night, for the first time in Canada, so far as we know, there was an exclusively Black meeting. There's no whites allowed.
The meeting had a purpose, to form a Black united front.
The meeting was probably the most enthusiastic meeting of Black people that I have ever attended anywhere. It includes the Caribbean, the United States, and Canada. It sort of brought about a mood for change. There were differences at the meeting, there were differences between different generation gaps, but there were an essential mood for change and a mood where people were beginning to feel the need to unite. And coming out of that meeting, I never felt better being Black.
Do you think the white community is afraid?
Well, yeah, afraid, I can't see what they had anything to be afraid of. Now, what you mean, afraid of change? We're all afraid of change. If they're afraid, I think that's what they're afraid of. They shouldn't be.
Jim Reed brought that report back to us from Halifax this morning. Jim, what about the white population? You asked him if they were afraid.
I spent very little time in the white community. For example, an hour after the meeting, though, let out, there was an arrest which I saw, of Rosie Douglas, a militant visitor from Montreal. But he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't he was talking to a group of people. There must have been 50 or 60 people on the street, and he was singled out for arrest and charged with loitering. There seems to be a subtle element of harassment.
Whatever is directed against us, we will direct back.
Would you stop at breaking the law, or are you prepared to break it if it's necessary?
A law is something that is set up by mutual consent for the benefit of people. If there is a law that allows people to brutalize other people, that is an unjust law.
And you'd be prepared to break it?
I have to deal with the moral law. I have to deal with the laws of the people, not the laws that someone puts down to suppress people and to brutalize people.
I was going up north to collect specimens for a biology class, and there was a car accident. I was knocked unconscious. I wake up, open my eyes. I had no idea where I was. And all I remember is these huge white men as they're telling me I have total amnesia. My friend Terence was there, and he's explaining to me that I'd had an accident and that I was in Canada. And I said, Canada, where is that? Eventually, my memory sort of came back. And somehow I remember that there was supposed to be a midterm exam. Now I had to deal with Perry Anderson. So I asked for permission to do a makeup, and the answer was no. For that midterm exam, I got a 0. It turned out that some white guy had gone to Florida on vacation, and he was given the opportunity to do a makeup exam. So just imagine all the minority students, each of us with our own individual stories as to how he dealt with us as students. This was a place that as an immigrant and as a black person, one could take a stand. We went to the administration offices. They decided that they would investigate these accusations, and so they took our names, and they were going to contact us with their findings.
Située d'abord rue de Romande, à Montréal, l'université Sir George Williams, du nom du fondateur du mouvement YMCA.
We got back in class in September, and people were asking, well, did you hear? What did you hear? And nothing.
I had taken courses at Sir George, and I ran into Rodney. We talked about what had happened. My feelings were it was wrong and we should do something about this. Can't let them get away with this. You know, we got to fight this.
One of our 5 demands is this, that the administration get together with us and with Professor Anderson as soon as possible.
Have you dealt with black students before, and what were your relationships with them if you have?
Could you qualify that statement?
Have you dealt with black students before, with West Indians before in any way, and how were your relationships with them?
I've had many West Indian blacks registered in my courses over the last 4 years at Sir George Williams University, and I think that they have been, on the whole, satisfactory.
Let's have an independent hearing of the case with people that are more or less neutral. The administration didn't want to do that.
That the administration of this school has been giving the black students a runaround for almost a year now.
Moi, j'étais pas un étudiant, mais j'étais un de leurs qui luttait pour les mêmes causes qu'eux.
If this case involved white students, it would have been settled long, long ago.
So a group of us went to the Danish students. He had no information for us other than, oh, the matter had been handled, whatever, and reports were sent out. Well, we never received any reports. So we went to the Dean of Science. Do you have a copy? No, none of them had a copy of the reports. Oh, there was a report sent to the principal, Ray. But Ray didn't have a report either. What happened to Ray's report? Oh, well, it got lost in the internal mail. We expected these people to act honorably. And it never occurred to me that they would be deceitful.
The longer this is dragged out, the more questions have arisen about whether they possess the evidence that they claim to possess. I believe that attempts were made to get in touch with the black students. This seems to have come to naught.
In your opinion, do you believe there is some racism in this university?
Well, if there is racial discrimination in this university, I will make up my mind on this when I hear the evidence under due process to this effect. Before I do, I have only, probabilities.
Niggas go home. That was the sign that was posed around at the cafeteria yesterday. This is the type of society that you're living in. So when you speak of racism and you start asking for evidence and evidence and evidence, you displayed it right here. You are afraid of black people. Why? Ask yourself why. Start thinking and start coming to some constructive conclusions.
You have a community where everyone knows that racism exists, but no one can pinpoint a racist. It's fascinating.
Peace and love, brothers. Peace and love. As a matter of fact, I was just speaking to Perry this morning. Perry Anderson is my friend. Some of my best friends are white people. That's him, He shouts me right in the eye, I say, hi, Perry, and that's it. That's equal justice. But the issue is that we started out with a complaint against a professor, and now we end up not just fighting the whole administration structure, but also you white racist students in the back, and that is enough to drive a man crazy. Those of you who are concerned with justice, let us deal with the central issue today, which is getting the administration to come here and let them negotiate with us to set up a new hearing committee.
Could we have order, please, sir? Mr. Clerk, could we have order? Mr. Clerk, could we have order? Order, please. Mr. Clerk, could we have order?
Instead of talking with us, the administration, they call on some expert called Genovese. Genovese is from California. He worked with the police against the Black Panthers, so he's an expert on niggers. After the meeting, the lady that was taking the notes, she gave us the notes and said, well, this is what they were talking about. So Genovese, he asked them, okay, what are your weak points? They told him, well, the computer center.
Something is going on upstairs right now. If you're willing to take a stand and stop being hypocrites, stand up. Everybody stand up. Come on, move! Move! Get off your asses! Follow me upstairs. Let's go! Let's go, everybody. Let's get upstairs. Let's take a stand now.
Computer center. Computer center. Get moving. Everybody. Those who support our just demands, those who are on the side of justice, move! We win! We win! We win! We win!
On a essayé de négocier, tu sais, puis ça ne marche pas. Puis le computer, ça coûtait cher à l'époque. Fait que te toucher où ça fait mal,
We'll be in there. We will not touch your machines. We'll even guard your machines. But we are in here, and we're not leaving until we get the right answers.
Okay, you're going to keep it up?
The demonstration? That's right.
Until what time?
Until our brothers come out.
It was an occupation 24/7. So the meetings I chaired would go on for 18 hours. Periodically, you'd look at somebody and say, look, you know, I've just done 6-7 hours. You're in the chair.
Professor Anderson seems to be in a position where there are serious charges against him, and yet, in a way, you're preventing him from answering those charges.
No, I disagree with this completely. The administration is preventing these charges from being heard. The boys who signed the charges are anxious to present the evidence before the type of committee that was agreed to upon in the initial stages of negotiation between the administration and themselves.
We didn't expect it to last more than 3-4 days. We really thought that we had them by the balls.
I called John Diefenbach on the phone yesterday, and I told him, well,
Rosie even contacted the former Prime Minister of Canada.
Well, I phoned Diefenbach because, at least on a superficial level, he always claimed to be concerned with minority groups. And he told me that he was against student demonstrations and student occupations, and he had advised the necessary authorities in Saskatchewan that if the students occupied any section of the building during winter, they should turn the heat off and let them freeze to death.
Our last story tonight is one of perplexing protest at Sir George Williams University in Montreal. John, it seems to me that the older generation is getting bored and probably irritated with this whole business of student protests. I think that's a pity because it's an important subject. Can you, in your position as a university official, clarify?
And they feel that participation is itself part of their education. That's one, and that's...
All right, there's another one that, like, by implication, is not legitimate.
Well, perhaps my explication is seems to me not legitimate, and that's a desire of, I think, a very small minority of students, a very well-organized minority, to in fact take over the university and to use it for purposes other than their own education.
So, what do you mean?
Well, to use the university as an ideological arm in what they would describe as a social revolution.
I received a phone call that the university were prepared to negotiate an end to this process. With that, a decision was taken that this occupation is over, that we have won.
Many people left, but I stayed because we were cleaning up.
The idea was to leave the place sparkling clean as we had found it, maybe more.
So I'm downstairs on the main floor waiting for the elevator to take me up to join the occupation. And these two police came. They took me into this police car. I didn't know where we were headed. Probably an hour later, they let me out. And told me that if I was seen anywhere near the university, I would be arrested.
About 4 or 5 in the morning. We looked out the window. The police are storming the building. We were stunned. They tricked us.
We had grown up in a crucible of racism that people had told us was coming to an end. And here was a betrayal of the highest order.
They got pushed back, they reinforced, they try again. Instead of them chasing us, we're chasing them with fire hose.
Just hang on, there's about 80 students running down the street here. This may be a rumor. I was told that
We started throwing down computer cards. These cards were going out the window.
we understand they've called out all the police reserves and police cars are starting to cut in on Bishop Street and block the alleyways here. The windows have been starting to be broken.
Looks like wildfire.
Just a minute, something's happening here. Just hang on.
Go ahead, Clark. We get through on the air? Yeah, you're on the air. Tell me. At this point, I've not got much chance of getting anywhere. The smoke is so bad at this point, you can't see. There's no light. There's no air. I understand what he's trying to tell me from the... I don't know where the students are, what's happening to them, but they can't breathe in there.
We were in a sea of whites, and they were chanting, "Let the niggers burn."
At one point, I said, Rosie, we have to prepare for evacuation. Rosie told me, Philip, you should have been the first one out. You could be sent back to Duvalier and he will shoot you and torture you.
Cops started taking us into the basement of the building.
One policeman threw me on the floor, put the heel of his shoes right on my temple here, and he spun around at least 3 times. My head was exploding. I could hear them beating on this young woman. I had this feeling of powerlessness. There are ways that you strike a person with a club. If it doesn't break the head, it certainly does some internal damage.
It's been a day of delays in the arraignment of the 90 arrested yesterday at Sir George Williams University. Each student is being charged with 4 counts of conspiracy to commit mischief and arson. If convicted, sentences could range from 5 years to life imprisonment. The arraignment, which was scheduled for 10 a.m., or and almost immediately, lawyers for the defense and prosecution became involved.
Probably 100% of us had never been arrested before. They did segregate us from the rest of the jail population. So like when we would be on our way to the lunchroom and have to walk past the regular population, you know, they would be, yay, they'd be, you know, cheering us on. And then we started hearing all kinds of wild rumors about the fire. He did this, well, I saw him go in the room, and he did have a hammer in his hand. You know, all this kind of stuff. What I was concerned with the most was just keeping the group together. We're all going to be charged with the same things, and they're going to try to split us up. So we must stay together.
They took me to some cell. And I was beaten. These guys were really mad and crazy, threatening to send me to Duvalier if I did not say who burned the computer, if I didn't sign some paper, right? Because of my experience in Haiti, I expected to be tortured. I knew that I had to keep my composure. Yeah, I just take a deep breath and take it. But if you're not psychologically ready for that, it becomes a terrible trauma.
A motion by defense lawyers that some of the charges were repetitious was later withdrawn. Lawyers for the accused opted for jury trial at a preliminary hearing, date of which has not been set. Immigration officials will have the last say in the case of the 22 West Indians arrested. If convicted, they likely will be deported. This is Richard Lechner reporting from the Montreal Municipal Court building.
The 1620, the smaller machine, has been damaged largely by smoke and water. The 3300, the major damage to that machine has been done through students using axes on the equipment.
The latter is the $1 million machine.
The 3300 is the million plus.
Why was the university so unprepared for it?
Well, because West Indians, as many of our colleagues who know them have assured us, the manner of West Indians is somewhat more expansive than in our own. They tend to speak with large gestures. They tend to laugh, immoderately perhaps. The language is very picturesque, choice, frequently obscene, but nowadays, of course, since nobody seems to object to that kind of language, no one took it all that seriously. And we were assured, therefore, that it would be wrong on our part, it would be overreacting if we took what the students were saying at its face value.
Now, we don't know who lit the fire, and we don't know who destroyed the computer. However, a lot of the statements concerning let the niggers burn, send the West Indians back home, cut off the aid that we give them, don't give them job. The implications that these people are nothing less than animal. They are useless. And society could therefore be best rid of them. this traditional form that the white man has for keeping the nigger in his place, so to speak, is here in Canada and is manifested at its greatest at this point in time. And it is not born today, it was always there. It is simply that these stark racists see this as an opportunity when they feel that they can legitimize their race hate.
My brother came to bail me, and I refused to go. Because my brother was like, what are you doing with these people? These people have nothing to do with you. Let's get out of here, come on. No. No, I'm not going. What are you, nuts? No.
On a contacté toutes les ambassades des gens qui étaient impliqués. Et ils nous ont donné de l'argent pour payer le cautionnement. Il y a seulement Haïti, c'était ceux du Valais, évidemment, qui n'a pas voulu donner un sou pour Philippe. Là.
Four American warships, one carrying 2,000 Marines, steamed into Trinidad and Tobago. Their arrival was preceded by 2 months of demonstrations, marches, and sporadic violence, touched off by the trial of 10 West Indians in Montreal, who had been charged in the computer smashing incident at Sir George Williams University.
If I asked you to give a message to the people of my country, Canada, what would it be?
I would tell them to beware. Black people down here are on the move. We are aware of what is being done to our brothers in Canada, and we intend to take serious, positive action if those boys do not get justice.
One of your objectives is also to end what you call economic imperialism. Could you be more specific about that for me?
Yes, well, we want to end the exploitation economically, culturally, in every sense, by the white foreign powers, particularly from North America and Britain. Right now we are passing a Canadian bank. As we go lower down the street, we'll pass a number of other Canadian banks. You have lots of insurance companies down here throughout the Caribbean. You have bauxite. You are one of our major exploiters.
Through this racist professor, they go through the college system, the college board of directors, the institution of the college. Through them, they find out who the board of directors are. From that board of directors, they find out they control most of the wealth in Trinidad. So they now recognize that their fight is not against this professor, but against this man who controls their wealth in Trinidad. Therefore, they must now join with the people in Trinidad to show the people in Trinidad that this man who controls their wealth in Trinidad is the same man who controls their lives in Canada. All of the Caribbean is under the control of the imperialists. And all of the Caribbean must fight to free itself, and since we are the same people, we must aid each other in our battles to free ourselves from racist imperialism. We have no alternative.
They found us guilty, and I got personal recognizance. I got let out. Rosie got 2 years.
The attitude of the government is that we should get on our knees and say we're sorry. And I point blank refused. So, to me, apology meant saying you were sorry for what happened. And I could never be sorry for standing up for my own rights.
I was arrested several more times after Sir George. They came to my house 4 or 5 in the morning, that's their style. So they kicked my door down, and I mean down, off the hinges down, arrested me. After a while, it got so stupid that the jail keepers, they would say, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I don't know." They picked me up again. I wasn't charged with anything, but I now was on the activist list.
Quand j'ai fait ma demande de citoyenneté, là, un matin, là, ils m'ont réveillé dans mon lit là, pour me poser des questions. Et tu vois telle manifestation, et tu vois ta. C'était pas facile.
I had to be very careful because they were watching me all the time. For many years, it was difficult to even get a job. Once they find out that you are one of them Sir George boys, that's it. It was a high price to pay.
The number of people that had been disadvantaged by that whole experience, including my own children, who never knew where I was. I mean, in those days, this was from one crisis to the other. And some people came out of it, some people never came out of it.
The struggle is a persistent, a constant one. And once you stop, you die. So we are condemned to keep on the struggle.
Dans le sens, mon âme est encore colonisée. Et je me sens prête à exploser parce que je trouve qu'il n'y a pas plus gros crime.
Took me close to 35 years to reconcile the pieces of my life so that I can sit down here today and talk to you about this without tearing up. We are not allowed as human beings to have an identity that is not sullied by other people's notion of who you are. Who am I? That's a damn good question. Everything else is a smoke screen.
Now. Where did your ancestors come from?
Africa.
How did they get here?
Oh,
Who brought them?
white man.
Did they want to come?
No,
What do you want?
freedom.
I'm gonna feast at the welcome table one of these days, hallelujah. I'm gonna feast at the welcome table. Gonna feast at the welcome table one of these days. I'm gonna tell God about my troubles. I'm going to tell God about my troubles one of these days, hallelujah. I'm going to tell God about my troubles. Going to tell God all of my troubles one of these days.
Independent Lens is made possible by the Action Circle for Independent Lens, with major funding from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, Acton Family Giving, the Ford Foundation, the Jonathan Logan Family Foundation, and contributions from the following. Additional support for this series has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.